Hello and welcome to episode 195 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking from indie film to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to F it up, in our very, very humble opinion. I am Giles Alderson. I'm a writer, director, and a producer.
I am Robbie McCain, director, producer.
And we are delighted to tell you that today's guest is the amazing screenwriter, Jim Hart. I can't wait for you lot to listen to this one. I had such a blast recording this one with Lucinda Rhodes-Takra, who can't be here doing the intro because she's on set of Confession right now, her latest feature film starring Cole Meany and Stephen Moyer. She's shooting that right now, so she can't do this, but she did join us. And what you learn from Jim Hart today is incredible. He talks all about when he started to write Dracula for Francis Ford Coppola and how he set up the Hart Chart, his own Hart Chart, which measures characters' emotions.
Yes, and he also talks about how he first got into filmmaking, starting in the world of producing before transitioning to become a screenwriting legend.
Obviously, we talk about his work writing the amazing Hook, starring Robin Williams, Dracula, as I've mentioned, and of course, working on one of my favourite films of all time, Contact. It's an absolute doozy of an episode for any screenwriter, for any producer, and any filmmaker. Obviously, you're listening to this already, so it doesn't matter. But if you do like this, do jump on iTunes and give us that 5-star review. It means the world to us.
And tell your friends. So, Giles, you're joining us live from the set of your latest feature. It's a romantic thriller. We don't know much about it. What's been going on?
It's been amazing. What an incredible week it's been. As you can tell, my voice is a little tired. I am absolutely knackered. We're on day 7, so we shot 6 days in a row, had a day off, and we started day 7 today. And it's just been one of those wonderful roller coaster rides where you all jump in feet first. A lot of people don't know each other, and you just go, right, we're making a movie. How are we going to do it? And we're in this amazing manor house in the middle of Northampton. It is one of the most beautiful places you could ever imagine. You know, in those movies where the car pulls up and the shot just reveals a manor house. Yeah. That's what we've got. We've got one of those. It's got a pond. It's got a pond, I say that. It's got a lake. The rooms are just gloriously set up, and we're just basically, it's been an amazing ride so far with a really incredible team. I've been absolutely blessed with who we've got on board, and the actors have just been a delight. And I can't wait to tell you who they are. I can't yet because it hasn't been announced. We're waiting for the announcement any day now.
You're killing us here, Giles. Come on.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I mean, you could probably guess by some of my Instagram and tweets and stuff, but anyway, it's a bit of a secret.
You could do your own bit of detective work.
You could do your own detective work if you really wanted, but it's the screenplay that I've been working on for the last sort of month to get it into shape for filming right now. But do you know what I've learned, Robbie, from doing this is...
What have you learned, Giles?
I've learned to always try and think about day for night. When you're shooting in winter... everything changes. You don't have all your lovely day shots because you can only shoot until 3:30 because it starts getting dusk. So you have to plan, either shoot day for night or move a lot of your scenes to night. So you end up doing split days, which is great in principle, but that often means you're moving location. Now, whenever you move, I say location, I mean from one room to another, but as soon as you do that, it's a whole shift. It's a massive move, and you've got to relight through a different window. You've got maybe a different costume because it's a different day, different hairstyle, and it takes so long. So scheduling a movie like this is so important, and luckily we were on top of it from the beginning. But because of COVID and the situation we had, we couldn't recce as much as we would like. We couldn't get in as much as we like. So, you know, one day recce, quick whip round, suddenly you're on set shooting. And the first day we were shooting, or first day we arrived here, it was the first time most people had seen it, and we had to have a COVID test, which took an hour, of everyone doing it. Thankfully, everyone passed. Actually, sadly, one guy who was playing a smaller role in the film, he had COVID from his test that he wasn't when he was on set with us, so he couldn't join us. That's really sad. It just goes to show you know, if you're a filmmaker or whatever, you can't be going out to party, you can't be breaking the rules because you're making films.
Split days can be really tough because obviously, of course, you're doing 2 sets of starts and 2 sets of wrap-ups per day. So that's kind of, you know, it doubles basically all of the kind of admin time that you need to do. I mean, it's got to be quite challenging.
It's ridiculously challenging. It actually is. It really makes you think, and you've got to sometimes condense things that you wouldn't normally do. And it's been really challenging on our art department, who every time you move a location, it's a whole new setup. Like I say, they've not been here before really, one quick recce, but then you're going, right, well, we need, that has to be there, and there's major fight here, or food has to be brought in here, and it's so much to do when you, obviously no shops are open either for costume fittings, so we had to do them via Zoom. So suddenly you're on set and you're going, that's not right. Well, no one's open to get a replacement. Ordering stuff is really difficult, takes time. We're in the middle of nowhere, no internet. No, it's honestly, you're going, oh my god, how are we actually managing? I have no idea. But the other thing I have learned is that I'm doing my shot lists for the day after tomorrow. So obviously I've done all my shot lists anyway, but now you're here, things change. So what I'm doing at night is obviously going over the stuff for tomorrow, but then I'm also doing the stuff for the day after tomorrow, so that I can distribute that to all my AD teams, all the producers, so they kind of know what the setup's going to be
so
for
they have
the day
a kind
after.
Of a 12-hour window to
exactly,
view it.
rather than me suddenly doing it at night when I'm really tired for tomorrow and everyone's waiting for it for the call sheet for the day after. So that's been something that's been really useful as well, when people have come up on set and gone, oh, for tomorrow's shoot or the day after, and you kind of go, oh my god, because there's so much going on, it's really hard to think about tomorrow. So I'm prepping even more than I would.
And how much stuff can you even do in advance before you even have started the first day's shoot, or does it have to be sort of, you know, all be done once you're kind of in full view of all of the elements that you've got?
Yeah, you do as much as you can. Obviously, like I said, I did all my shot lists. I did my really terrible storyboards. I can't draw, obviously, as everyone knows. And I did them anyway. But once you get there to set, you see everything different. The actors block it differently. You see a new shot that isn't on your shot list. So you just plan things differently. So therefore, you do it again. And when you've got a reduced team as well, because of COVID, you have to have less team, and we really could do with a few more bodies to help in certain departments, because it's really tough. But you know, everyone's chipping in, everyone's just picking up stuff, and that's been really lovely to see. And honestly, I'm delighted with the footage we've got. I've watched the rushes, the performances are out of this world.
Amazing.
And I'm honestly delighted with what we get, and I just hope, I know we've got stuff coming up, and I've already keep pushing stuff back a day, and the producers are going, guys, where are we going to fit these in? So I'm condensing stuff now and just, you know, really thinking about my shots and really concentrating to make sure I don't lose stuff, because that's the important thing. Vital. Story, it's all about story, so that's what's key. Concentrate on that, and the rest you can lose.
And what's your kind of goal for this coming week?
Well, this coming week is the final sort of scenes in the manor house where we are, and then after that we're in London for the next 2-3 weeks.
Of course.
So my goal for this week is just to complete what we have to shoot here, which is a lot of the end of the movie. So it's a lot of the big sort of emotional heft, a lot of the big drama stuff. So it's a lot, you know, we've got to dig a grave. We've, you know, got to put people in it. We've got to do, you know, big dark room where there's big fight scenes, sequences take place. So there's a lot to do here. So basically I'm just getting through this, as in, you know, really concentrating, not stopping, and just fighting through to get the best shots and the best sort of performances and movement and direction I can. That's all you can do, really.
Amazing, man. Never give up, never surrender.
Never do it. And do you know what? And this is hopefully inspiring for people out there listening, that you can make a movie even in tough times and dark times. You can do it. And in some way, if this inspires you to go, oh god, why did I stop for COVID? Or why am I not trying to make my dream happen because no, don't let anything stop you. Even if it is really hard and there is problems, and there will be, you can still get through it, and you can still go make your movie.
Great advice. Right, we should probably get to Mr. Jim Hart, our main topic of this episode.
We absolutely should, and you're in for a treat. You're going to love him. He's amazing. I'm going to do my shot list for the day after tomorrow, and I'll look forward to catching up with you all next week. Thanks for this, Robbie.
Best of luck, Giles, and see you next week.
Cheers, guys. Enjoy.
Where is everybody?
Well, I'm in North London. Lucinda is in
I'm in Suffolk.
Oh, great. We're in North London. We usually stay in Muswell Hill and Highgate.
Gorgeous. Yeah, I used to live there. I used to live in Muswell Hill for a little bit.
Yeah, it's
really
lovely.
lovely.
We have more friends in London than probably any other city. With film and the productions and what have you, we've made great friends over the years. Bob Hoskins was a great friend. He and his family, the kids have all grown up together, and we miss it. It's a drag not being able to come over there.
That's so nice to hear.
What?
Yeah, London and England does have a special charm, doesn't it?
And you guys are being vigilant and taking precautions?
We were just having that conversation, actually, Jim, because both Giles and I are both going into production within 2 weeks, myself and Giles within 3 weeks. And obviously we had this terrible shock, didn't we, on Saturday about this second lockdown. So the extra precautions, we have to be even more vigilant during the lockdown and shooting. It's going to be very interesting shooting during pandemic.
Yes.
Well, I have 3 friends that are in production, 2 here, 1 in Montreal, 2 in Montreal, 2 TV series here, and what they're having to go through. I mean, you have to be really diligent and get used to it because it's going to be this way for a while.
Yes.
Yeah. We're now Zoom town.
This is what we have to do now. We have to get used to this. And I think we do. And actually, what I found, and Lucinda, you're probably the same, especially when you're not traveling in as much, and in LA, New York less so, but when you're in LA, to travel in for a meeting, well, it's kind of your whole day.
2-hour drive every which way you go.
Totally. And it's not far off with London. Okay, it's not a 2-hour drive, but sometimes you're on the train for an hour, hour and a half and back again. And actually, this Zoom situation, or there is other platforms available, you can have that sort of nice rapport online. It's not the same, but you do get a lot of stuff done.
Everybody has a good seat. It's when I do my master classes now, I find it much more efficient because they can see the examples, they can see the chart, they can see all this, and everybody has a good seat. They're not in the back row. So
that's a really good point.
So in that respect, it's been much more efficient for what I do.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing as well. When I've done online events, people from all around the world can attend now, whereas before they couldn't. When it was in person, when we did them in London, it was people like, oh, well, we can't come, and now they can. Tell us about Hart Chart.
The Hart Chart, why not? When I was working with Coppola on Dracula, which was probably the single most complete experience I've had in my career as a screenwriter, I watched him prep to shoot a film the way I'd never seen anybody prep. We did radio plays, we videoed rehearsals. He would build a storyboard with the live recording, so we always had a running time of the film. All this preparation, and I watched him walk onto the set knowing exactly what he was going to do every day. We get in the editing room about 4 months before release, and we've had 2 or 3 disastrous previews. And he calls me one night at midnight in New York. And my wife says, Francis is on the phone, and I said, hey, everything okay? And he said, I want you to get on a plane in the morning and get your ass out here. I hate you. I hate the script. I hate the movie. I hate the actors. I hate the studio.
Wow.
I hate, why did I ever get involved in this mess, And I want to show you that movie. So I couldn't wait. That was 15 years of my life. And suddenly I had the greatest director I could possibly have. And he was saying it's shit. I flew out the next night, and the next night I was there in the Godfather screening room at Zoetrope in San Francisco with the big leather couches and the cigars and the cognac and the wine.
Right.
And strangely enough, 2 women that spoke Romanian. I don't know why they were there. He didn't even come down to see me. He stayed up in the penthouse. He called me. He said, "Okay, you're here." He said, "I want you to call me as soon as you finish, and I want to come down and we'll talk." I sat there for the next 2 hours and got drunker and drunker and angrier at what I was seeing. It was a piece of shit. I was like, this is not we saw the dailies, we saw the shoot, the script was hailed and praised, and the actors all loved the script and everything. At first, that never always happens, or usually never. And so he called me about 2 a.m. and said, "You haven't called." I said, "No, I'm pissed too. I hate you too." So he said, "Well, good. Let me come down and tell you what we're going to do." So he came in like a big 18-year-old kid, in his cravat and a little cigar and his pointed Turkish shoes and his smoking jacket and everything. And he sat down and he pitched me the story he wanted to tell. And I'm going, didn't we just do that? I thought that's what we shot.
Sure.
And so for the next 2 weeks, we sat in the editing room together and we went through and reviewed all the footage. and we kept identifying pieces of narrative that we didn't shoot or didn't know to shoot, or the footage informed us of a different way to look at the film. So it was like a rewriting. We literally rewrote with film. And I'm sitting there making notes. And so I would write beginnings and endings of scenes, or middles of scenes, or pieces of narration. We didn't reshoot one scene in the film, but we had to go back and reshoot to fill in the gap of these pieces of narrative. And I keep saying, Francis, there has to be a way in the script stage to be able to head some of these problems off before you get to the editing room. Especially independent filmmakers. They can't call up, Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder and have the studio put the sets back up, and they can't do that.
No.
I'll just give you a quick example. The ending didn't work. The ending in the previews, Winona's supposed to go into the castle with Dracula with a knife in his heart, and she kills him and kisses him, and he's redeemed and she's healed, and then she walks off into the sunset with Keanu Reeves, and the audience would boo. They didn't want that. They wanted to see Dracula and Mina stay together. George Lucas looked at the film and said, "Hey, you broke your rules. In order for her to complete the mission, she's got to cut off his head. That's the rules you set up in the movie."
Yes, indeed.
He was right. How do we miss that? Francis and then called me and said, "Hey, do you think we can get Winona and Gary back together if Winona cuts off Gary's head?" And I said, "Yeah, I think that's the only way you can get them back together." So in that last scene in the film, the finished film, you see beautiful matches with wigs. They were both in different looks then for new films. Mm-hmm. There are close-ups and parts of the master and close-ups that were shot 18 months apart.
Love it.
And it's seamless. And now the ending is complete. She doesn't go to Keanu. She cuts off his head. You see them up in the heavens together the way the audience wanted them. But somehow we miss that in the writing of the script. And I finally said, I got to figure out a way to I have to have a way to not go through this again, or at least be able to head it off at the pass, at least be able to tackle it. So Francis gave me 3 questions. He said, "Why don't you try this? There's some old journalism questions." He gave me 3 questions. I wish he'd given them to me before we started, and real basic screenwriting 101 questions. And I expanded those, and I said, "Okay, I'll do that." And I started analyzing my scripts as I would write them, or rewrites that I was going to do. And I started imposing these 3 questions on the project. And then I expanded it to 10 questions. It was beginning to teach me to write character-driven narratives as opposed to plot-driven. I was a plot guy. Right. The plot dictated what the characters did and when they did it. And what I learned from the experience on Dracula, which incidentally opened and broke records and made Francis well again and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So it had a happy ending. But what I discovered was that by shifting all my focus to character-driven narrative, it opened up a whole nother world. When I would get my heart checked every year, my EKG, and you watch the needle go up and down. And I said to my cardiologist, I wonder if I can take this principle and apply it to a screenplay. Can I measure the heartbeat of the characters on the page, as they go through the narrative? And will that inform me as to pace, what I'm missing, what I'm losing, what I've lost, what I need more of? So we developed the Hart Chart. And it literally was drawing a map of your character's emotional journey through a series of signposts and measurements so you could come to a satisfying ending. We did not have a satisfying ending on Dracula. So not a happy ending, not a sad ending, satisfying ending. So that became one of my questions. Do you have a satisfying ending? Is your audience satisfied with where you have led them? Are they pissed off? Like people were when they saw the end of Game of Thrones, or when they saw the end of Lost, or when they saw the end of the Sopranos. Do you have a satisfying ending? It's now an app that's available online. We used to draw them. There's the Dracula chart when I drew it at Austin Film Festival. I used to draw them. Nobody could read my handwriting, so Guy Goldstein, who developed Writer Duet, came and did the app.
Right, okay.
So shameless self-promotion.
No, please. That's what it's about.
This is the toolkit. This is now used all over the world and started at the Austin Film Festival. Then I use it at the Sundance workshops and the Equinox workshops all over Europe. Yeah. People kept saying, I want a book. So we made a booklet. That's as thick as my toolkit is. Robert McKee's is this thick.
It's really too thick.
His is collecting dust on my shelf. I've opened it. This is all you need. Never face a blank page again.
I love that.
You might face some shitty ones, and toss a few, but they won't be blank. It's now used all over the world. It's and you can read the testimonials on the website beginners and people that have won Academy Awards that think they don't have to learn. Like, I didn't think I had to learn anything. I had Spielberg directing Hook and Francis Coppola directing Dracula. What did I need to know? I was, there were parts of me that didn't smell, So this opened up a whole new way. It gave me the confidence when I take on a new project or a revision or a rewrite. I know exactly how to analyze. It's like being an auto mechanic. You need a new set of tires. You need your brakes changed. You need to check oil. I wanted to make it a more mechanical process as opposed to this woo-woo magic, ether voodoo that some people have and some people don't. You still have to have talent, but this forces you to write. You can never sit there and go, I don't know what to write. As soon as you start answering the first question, you're writing.
It's really great. Well done. And just super. Where can people find this? I mean, I take it you go to the HartChart.com.
Yeah, you go to HartChart.com. The toolkit is there. The story mapping tool is also there, which is a monthly subscription. You can opt in and out whenever you want to. There's no penalty. The toolkit is invaluable. And we just now posted the 4 film masterclasses we did at Austin Film Festival 2 years ago, which takes you through the toolkit, takes you through all the uses and examples of the toolkit. I mean, when one of my workshops, one of the guys put me on pause and went and opened up his script and solved a problem right there, and then went back and came back and told me that. Said, hey, this third question you asked me, I just went, oh my God. You don't have to wait around for inspiration. I mean, I think Jack London said, you don't wait around for inspiration. You find the biggest stick you can, chase it down, and beat the hell out of it. And I hear so many people, I don't know what to write. I get lost. I get stuck. This toolbox gives you a set of tools that you have to use. It doesn't do it for you. I mean, everybody thinks the chart's going to write their script. It's not going to write the script, but it's going to reveal to you the emotional journey, the ups and downs, the heartbeat of your characters. And you can tell when you're flatlining. You can tell when you've lost a character for 20 pages. So there it is on the chart. Where'd he go? Or where'd she go? It gives you those audience moments. And it's not a formula. There's no chart that's alike. But it does have these. This is where Chris Vogler and I agree. We're close friends and share a lot of the same principles. There are certain storytelling principles that are burned into the ether of the universe. You can mess with them, but you can't avoid them. And structure is, I'm a big structure guy. Structure is liberating, and knowing structure is liberating. Yeah. It doesn't constrain you, it frees you up.
Well, what I'll do is I'll stick a link to that in the show notes. Absolutely. And do go there. You get 20% off for listening to this podcast. It's really cool for you. Thank you for that, Jim. No, really appreciate it. Now, obviously, you go under James V. Hart, but obviously everyone calls you Jim, right? So just to clarify that, so get that correct.
It's so funny because I was Jim V. Hart on Hook, and suddenly when I got to Dracula, people said, that doesn't sound right with Dracula. And I was always Jimmy. Right. So most people call me JV or Jim or Hart, but James V. Hart made my mom feel really good. It more of the proper name. So that's what I do now when I write. It's either JV Hart or James V. Hart. Jim is when we're in the bar.
Perfect, which is kind of what we are now. We're in the bar, we're having a chat.
Well, if I'd have known, I would have got a whiskey.
Yeah, this is full of whiskey.
A little early for me.
Of course, because you're in New York, where it is quite crisp there at the moment in terms of the weather. It is crisp here in the UK right now. I wanted to talk about your sort of journey to get to Hook and Dracula and Frankenstein, because you started off as a producer, right? I mean, you were producing movies before you wrote Give Me an F, your first movie.
Oh my God.
Tell us about your journey to get there. And then, because after Give Me an F, you wrote Hook, and then straight into Dracula and straight into Frankenstein.
Well, I wrote a bunch of scripts between Give Me an F and, and Hook
tell us.
That didn't get made. Well, I grew up in Texas. My dad was a big drive-in movie guy, so we were always hooked on films. And I decided very early on that I wanted to somehow be in the movies. And I had the good fortune of going to a very unknown film school at SMU in Dallas. So we were so small. Our meetings were in the theology department, but Dr. G. William Jones was this amazing head of the department.
Okay.
who brought us an education that I couldn't have. You would think UCLA, USC, the NYU, Columbia Film. We had George Roy Hill come with a Wetgate answer print. Know what a Wetgate answer print is?
No.
In the days when you used to print them on film, it was the answer print, the first print you made off the negative.
Yes.
And they called it a Wetgate.
Right.
He brought Butch and Sundance to show our full 35-member department.
Wow.
We were the first college audience to see Butch and Sundance. And George Roy Hill sat with us for 3 hours after that film for Q&A.
Incredible.
Dustin Hoffman and Jack Nicholson showed up with Easy Rider, which had more than 35 people. And I watched Jack Nicholson get every co-ed in the room and signing their phone number on his arm because we didn't have cell phones in those days. But we got to see Easy Rider. Robert Altman.
Yes.
Brought MASH to SMU. Fox was going to dump it, and he brought MASH to SMU at our festival. We were the first audience to see MASH. And it saved the film because the reaction was so overwhelming, Fox had to pay attention to it. So and we were unique because we weren't any kind of big time school on the big time film school. Mm-hmm. I was lucky enough L.M. Kit Carson was a Texan. L.M. Kit Carson, I don't know if you know who Kit is. He was a great journalist and leader of the indie film movement, and sort of helped break Wes Anderson's career with Bottle Rocket. And
nice.
He was a kind of a legend to us Texans. And he came and lectured at our class, and I raised my hand and asked 2 or 3 questions. And afterwards, he came over to me and said, "Come on, you and I are going to have coffee." And we went and had coffee. He said, "This is what you're going to do. You're going to write, and you're going to tell your stories. And I can already just tell by the kind of questions you're asking." So I didn't know you could write. I always, as a producer, I didn't know that. I just thought the actors, did what the director told them, or the actors showed up and
improvised and just said the words. Yeah, sure. Okay.
I didn't know it was like exterior Sherwood Forest Day, or Robin Hood and Leaps and Welcome to Sherwood. So I started writing in school at SMU, and I had an English professor who outed me and read my essay in class. Wow. Without telling me they were going to do that. And everybody was kind of shocked that I was going to go into the arts because I was a fraternity guy and all this stuff, and I wrote a play again at SMU that got a lot of accolades. And then when I went into the business, a bunch of Texans came to me and said, "Let's raise money for movies," but I wasn't a writer. So I produced 2 or 3 independent films, one of which was a little mini classic. But I was always worried about. I was always reading the scripts, going, So I started rewriting the scripts.
Okay.
And my wife encouraged me to write because I was happier when I was writing than when I was producing.
Maybe I should do that.
Maybe you should.
Yeah, really. I wrote a script based on my fraternity days at SMU called The Frat Rats, which became the basis for a huge lawsuit on Animal House.
Right.
It was a raunchy, and I put somebody else's name on it. I put somebody else's name on it that I hated in school, so nobody would know it was me.
Love that. It's so them. They didn't do it. It wasn't me. Yeah. No,
I circulated the script, and it got a lot of people going, "This is really, this is raunchy, and nobody talks like this, and this is, pretty savage humor, and this is really, So we almost got it made, and then Animal House eclipsed it, but it gave me the bug.
Right.
I finally copped to the fact that I wrote it, and it's when I was writing comedy. And the one comedy I had made was Give Me an F, and that cured me of ever wanting to do a comedy again because my script was so much. It was like MASH for girls, Okay. It was like a Porky's for girls, It was raunchy, and it was the way women and girls that I had grown up teaching cheerleading with taught. I became one of the girls,
right?
And they changed it and took all the edge out of it, all the women talking scandalously, and then Slapshot came out and I proved my point.
Yeah. So they should have stuck with your script.
It cured me of writing comedies because it was, they took it and it's kind of a weird cult film. It's got a following. Mm-hmm. I think Fox re-released it as TNA Academy Part 2, you know.
Yeah.
But it's very mild and very bland to what I wrote. But I said, I'm not doing comedy anymore. So I went to sci-fi, which was my big, I was a big sci-fi kid. And I wrote a script called Protector that my son, Jake, still thinks is the best thing I've ever written, that Spielberg and Frank Marshall got involved in.
Okay.
And it was very early on in the special effects game. It was about video games training, being used as a training device by a dark ops military operation to train kids to go power this weapon system.
Okay.
Not unlike Ender's Game.
Yes.
But more like Top Gun. It was more reality based, like Top Gun is. The kids were learning to fly jump jets in the back, and they could operate the systems. And Stephen loved it, and Frank loved it. We never could get it made because they couldn't figure out the special effects were so sophisticated. This is 1982.
Right.
That they couldn't see a way to do it.
Sorry to jump in, Jim, but how did you meet Stephen and the team, Steven Spielberg and the guys, to even get the scripts to them in the first place?
Well, I had written a script about the modeling industry. My wife was a model, so I'd written a script called Hose Job about the modeling industry that got some acclaim.
Okay.
And I got my agent set me up with a meeting with John Tarnoff, who was in at MGM.
Right.
And I went in and pitched John Tarnoff Protector, and he went, "Oh my God, let's go downstairs and see Frank Marshall right now." And I went, "Really?" So we walked down to Frank Marshall. John called Frank and said, "Frank, you got to hear this."
Right.
So we walked downstairs to Frank's office, and we played video games, and I pitched him the story. And he wanted to do it. Now at that point, he didn't show it to Stephen until after we'd done the draft. Frank was doing this on his own. But suddenly I was, and also I'd known Stephen. We'd met years before. We had a lot of mutual friends, and he actually dated my wife.
Okay.
Before we were married. Before we were married. So Frank loved it, and he went off to do Indiana Jones, and E.T. came out. All this stuff happened while we were developing Protector. It moved to Paramount with Katzenberg. It had a life of its own. It's one of those unproduced scripts that that people kind of talk about. But it put me in that world, thanks to John Tarnoff, who said, "Let's go see Frank Marshall."
I love that. Yeah.
Right place, right time, isn't it? Sometimes.
That was in 1982.
Yep.
I didn't have a movie made until 80, whatever it was.
84 was Give Me an F, right? Or probably 83.
Which didn't help my career.
Right.
So I was a development deal guy forever. I wrote for Redford and Newman. I wrote for John Abnett. I wrote for, you could make development deals in those days. I wrote for certain directors. Nothing got made. So I was actually let go as a client by my agents.
Wow.
When I was writing Hook and Dracula. Hook was set up again as an accident. I had written a big sci-fi thing for Craig Baumgarten, John Adler, at Sony that didn't go anywhere, but they said to me, "What do you have that nobody wants to do?" And I had pitched Hook all over town and been turned down. Who wants to see a story about a grown-up Peter Pan? It'll never fly.
Literally.
And my family would give me Peter Pan gifts every Christmas to make me feel even worse.
Tinkerbell.
So when Craig Baumgarten said, "What did you got that nobody wants to do?" And I said, "Hook." And it was a 10-page treatment. And he read it and said, "This is for Nick Castle," who I'd just seen. He did The Boy Who Could Fly, which I thought was a mini masterpiece. So he put us together with Nick. Nick loved it. And at that time, Jeff Sagansky was running Sony, TriStar. And Jeff had a relationship with Nick and Craig. So Jeff said, "Yeah, I'll do you guys a favor. I'll make you a lowball development deal and you guys go away." So again, it was like nobody cared. Here's some money. Go away. It's never going to get made. But Jeff was doing a favor.
Right.
So Nick and I spent the next year at his house. I would sleep on my friend's couch out in L.A. Writing Hook. Jeff Sagansky left TriStar, and Mike Medavoy came in. And usually when you have a change of the guard, they get rid of all the stuff that's in development and start over. Well, Mike read our script and went, "Wait a minute. This is, wow, this is big." And I was also writing Dracula at the same time for USA Network, which nobody wanted to do.
Okay.
And suddenly, within a 5 or 6 week period, I mean, John Levin, here's the magic, the special sauce. John Levin, who's still my representative after almost 40 years, John Levin took the script of Hook to Dustin and Robin, and John Levin took Dracula to Winona Ryder.
Wow.
And within a 4 or 5 week period, and my agency had let me go. You know, John Levin hadn't, but the agency said, you know, you're old, you haven't got anything important, and nobody's going to do Hook and nobody's going to do Dracula.
Kicking themselves now. But yes.
So it was pretty magic. It was also one of those classic, what, really? And we were broke. We were driving around the country with the kids visiting friends. We were out in Wyoming visiting friends. And in those days, you had answering machines. You didn't have cell phones.
No, of course.
You go to the phone booth and check your answering machine, with your little remote thing. So there was a message on my answering. We were in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, having lunch. I was trying to, hopefully my credit card was going to work so the kids wouldn't be embarrassed. And I went downstairs to the phone booth and checked in to see if anybody called. And John Levin called, and he said, call me as soon as you can. I have some news. So
Heartbeat goes already.
Yeah, so I called him, will my credit card work? Yeah, it did. I called him, and he said, I have some news on Hook. I went, oh, great. Somebody read it. And he said, he said, there's a very important director that wants to do the film. And I said, if it's not Spielberg, we're not talking. And he went, that's who it is.
No way. Oh my God.
Amazing.
So I was able to go upstairs to my family and tell the kids and Judy that, Steven's going to do Hook.
Wow.
And so there was a certain jubilation, and I knew I could pay the rent next month. And, and then about 5 or 6 weeks later, I got a call from John Levin again, saying that Winona has given the script to Francis Coppola and he wants to do it. We're going to set a meeting for you. And so it's like, what? These were 2 scripts that nobody wanted in town. I mean, actually, Columbia turned down with Winona. It's not Columbia. With Winona and Francis attached to Dracula, every studio in town turned the project down. He had come off a bad scene with Godfather 3, which was a big disaster, and nobody wanted to work with him. And he was determined to make a film on budget with a genre, that he loved the script. And but again, Winona was my champion there. Everybody in town was trying to get her away from ICM. So CAA was courting her, and they gave her all these scripts, including mine. And when mine was on the bottom. And when CA came back and said, what do you want to do? She said, I want to do Dracula. And they go, why? She said, well, have you read the script? She was looking to change her stripes. So she gave it to Francis saying, should I do this for my career?
I see.
And he said, not only should you do it for your career, but who's directing?
Isn't it amazing how your life can change within, like you say, 5 or 6 weeks, life
up or down.
Up or down. Totally. Isn't it amazing just by putting in the work and the hard work you've done, the effort you got there, you and the team had got there to get these scripts ready, and they hit the right people at the right time. Wow.
Yeah, well, I was 77. Dracula I started in 1977. In 1991, we made the deal. Hook we started in 1983. It was turned down everywhere, and then we made the deal in 1990. So
it says it all, doesn't it?
Again, it's just you either have to take a patience pill or get your armor out and get your helmet on. And be ready for all the body blows you're going to take.
Totally, because you'll get so many in this business. That's such a great story. So do you now remember the moments when you were on set? I imagine you do. Let's go with Hook first, because we really appreciate your time, and I already want to talk about Contact and some of the other movies you got coming up, and Lara Croft and stuff as well. But obviously, in terms of Hook, did it still feel like a dream? Did you think any minute now it's going to fall down like some of the others had? And Can you remember that first moment on set and the feeling of, oh my gosh, here's my big movie made by Steven Spielberg?
Yeah, it was actually nobody. It was just my John Levin and I, my who's still my closest ally in this business. We were standing on the Hook pirate ship under construction, just the two of us, watching all this activity, building this thing, and that was a pretty proud moment because the idea had come from Jake, my son, who's now 40 and my writing partner. He's the one who said, "What if Peter Pan grew up?" And here was the answer. The set was a real learning experience for me. I watched the greatest, most successful commercial director in the world struggle every day to get what he wanted. Dealing with all, he had a lot of writers on the script, not enough time to get the script the way he wanted it. And he was vamping every day. He would come out and he had to fight 30 lost boys to get it. I was really impressed and also very empathetic towards what this great director was going through just to get something of what he wanted on the screen. Steven doesn't like the film.
No,
he badmouths it. He talks it down. He doesn't matter to him how successful it is and what a milestone it is in many, many people's lives. And listen, there are things in the script that I miss, but what you see is the impact it had on the audience.
I loved it. I loved this movie. I think I still do. I think it's fabulous. And
Michael Kahn, the editor, Steven's editor, was brilliant in constructing that film because it was not edited the way it was shot. It was edited the way I structured it, but not the way Steven shot it.
I see.
And he really had to be built in the editing room. Right. And I was listening. The joy of it was watching Robin. My kids learned great lessons they were allowed to be on the set every day. I mean, because Jake would sit behind Steven in the chair, and watch the angles and everything, because it was his movie. I mean, every day Robin would come up to Jake and bow and say, "Thank you, Jake-san, for my job. Thank you, Jake-san, for my job."
That is so lovely.
Which is where I first began to realize that writers are job creators. All those people, all that stuff.
Yep.
All those people that had employment, that got to give their kids through college, all that stuff came because a writer wrote the script.
Yep.
But watching Robin work and watching his ethic and his work ethic with the crew. He would stick around. He wouldn't go to his trailer if he didn't have to. He didn't have an entourage that came and took care of him. He was always there as a crew guy. He would give Steven whatever number of takes that he wanted. He was incredibly generous. And when he wasn't on the set, he was rehearsing flying in the rigs or rehearsing the sword fights. He did all of his work pretty much himself with the one great stunt guy that worked with him. So watching Robin work was a real inspiration to me because it inspired my kids.
So delightful.
Dustin had a different way of working, which, people that worked with him know what that is. And it did not make Steven's life any easier.
Right.
The one big moment I remember on the set is that it was right before they begin their final duel, and he's got the kids and he yells back up, there'll be daggers in the doors of your children to come back and fight me, all that stuff. And then Robin flies back up and they go, "It's Hook or me this time, death's the only, They had this one take where they hit the swords and they had exchange and it was Friday night and everybody was anxious to get out of town because it was Robin's 40th birthday and he'd invited people up to the ranch.
Okay.
And they were on like take 37.
Wow.
And Dustin kept saying, "Oh, Steven, let me try one more thing on the kid. We can do this. I know we've got it. I know we can do it." Finally, Dustin turned to Robin and said, "Robin, don't you agree? Just one more?" And Robin said, "I think we got it on take 2, Dustin." And it's the only time I've ever seen Robin sort of flare or have any kind of where he wasn't cooperative. And he said, and Steven said, "That's a wrap." And it was almost like that moment in the film where Dustin's standing there going, "Wait, come back and fight," for real.
Yeah.
But watching Robin's work ethic and how hard, and him and Bob Hoskins. Bob became a very dear friend. We lost him way too soon. But you watch that film now, and you watch Bob and Robin work. They're the glue that holds that movie together. Caroline was a complete and total joy of a discovery.
Yes. Yeah. She told Caroline Goodall, she mentioned about her audition to us. She was on episode 184 talking about a little bit about Hook as well. And she mentioned her audition with, and she's there with Robin Williams, and she's there improvising away. And she suddenly realized Robin wasn't. She was like, and she said, Robin, what's, and he went, I've already got the job, dear. And it's just this wonderful moment of going, I'm leaving it up to you. You need to get the job. Don't let me take over. And it was just so nice and so wonderful.
It's really giving of him as an actor.
Yeah.
Our first day on set, I was an EP, but also I was I was there every day, or could be there every day. I was working on Dracula. But first day on set's always interesting. And there's a scene they were shooting. I never met Caroline. It was a scene they were shooting with a fight in the bedroom where the kids are being shadows on the wall, and he's trying to close the deal, and he gets pissed off and yells at the kids. And I walk on the set. I'm just standing there because Malia is Dustin's writer, and we became great friends. And I'm watching everything Stephen go on. And Caroline, who I've never met, looks at me, and she says, "Are you James Hart?" And I went, "Yeah." And she came over and hugged me, and she said, "Thank you."
Wow.
And it's the only time, except maybe the only time that I've ever, she was so genuine about the script. She even wrote a whole book about the writing of Captain Hook that she, on beautiful calligraphy pages, and gave it to me. She was wonderful. And Stephen was right to cast her. We didn't need a movie star in that role.
No.
We needed a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
With the 3 or 4 scenes she has that are so memorable, I couldn't, and that's a moment that still resonates with me, is that thank you.
Yeah.
So actor was thanking the writer for the script.
What a delight. And you were mentioning there that while you were on set of Hook, you were writing Dracula at the time, or reworking the scripts or drafts. Were you doing that in between takes? Were you finding your own little cabin there to write?
Sometimes the worst place to be for a writer is on the set. The few times, sometimes you just feel like you're an observer.
Yeah.
And you want to say, hey, can we go back and let me tweak that? And it's Stephen. And unless Stephen asks you, you don't say, hey, I think you might want to. I would do that at Sunday nights on faxes to him, which would show up in the sides the next day as if he'd written them, which was fine. Sure. But sometimes the worst place to be for writers on the set, I'd rather be in the editing room. So we were crunching on Dracula because they were starting to build and prep Dracula while they were finishing Hook. So I was working, and I did take Francis to the set one day. Yeah. Francis called me and said, my granddaughter wants to meet Captain Hook and Peter Pan. So I called Stephen and said, can I bring Francis to the set with us? And Stephen's sure. Stephen calls him Francie. So I escorted Francis onto the set with Gia. And it was a scene where Dustin was going to commit suicide. It's the eating scene and all that stuff, which is one of my favorite scenes. Bob's so good in that. He really manages that scene. We walk onto the set. Of course, Stephen introduced Francis, and everybody's bows down and all this shit. And Dustin can't get through a take. He starts blowing his lines, and like, oh my God, what a minute. And this is typical Dustin behavior, except this seemed authentic. He wasn't just trying to get something his way to change something. He couldn't get through a take. And Francis finally leans over to me and said, I think I'm making Dustin nervous. I think I better leave. So after the next busted take, he excused himself and left with Gia, and I stuck around for a while, and Dustin was fine. But after Francis left and we wrapped for the day, Dustin came over to me and said, do you think Mr. Coppola liked me? Do you think did I do something wrong? Was I, it's like Dustin Hoffman was like groveling for attention from this man. Dustin's an actor. He'd never met Francis. And it was interesting to watch him sort of reduced to that kind of puddle in front of Francis. Yeah. And for Francis to recognize that and go, I should get out of here.
That's it. That is really, that is fascinating. It must happen quite a lot, though. That kind of fear. I suppose it's not easy being an actor, but this is Dustin Hoffman.
Well, the point is, it doesn't matter where you are in your career. Somebody like Francis Coppola walks up, and you're not sure the ground you're standing on. It's going to get unsteady. Yeah,
you're being judged, or they think that.
Yeah, that was a moment that I have such a vivid. I can see the looks on Dustin's face when you blow a take.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, it's embarrassing anyway, isn't it? I mean, but to do it in front of Francis and everybody else, it's to have a visitor on set and blow your lines.
Yeah, unfortunately, Stephen was used to that behavior out of Dustin, but for other reasons.
Yes, yeah. It sounded like a fraught set. It sounded like a great set. Yeah. I mean, the same for you. It must have been finally one of your scripts is actually getting made, and yet by one of the best filmmakers on the planet, with two of the biggest stars, around at the time as well. Must have felt amazing.
It did. I think if I'd have been, Stephen and I are the same age, so I wasn't the 24-year-old kid that was, No. I had some miles on me too, and some experience on me too. So I was just trying to get the best. I just wanted to get the best. What I learned is, because Stephen came on and Francis came on after I'd written the script. I created those, not them. But what I learned was the job of the screenwriter is not to try to impose their vision on the director, but to enable the director and to find their own, and hopefully you dovetail with some of the work you want. I watched Stephen struggle. I had great respect for what he went through. And I also learned that if I discovered something before him and told him that, he didn't want to hear it. He needed to discover it himself. Like Rufio's death was cut out of the script.
Right.
The mermaids were cut out of the script. Toodles was cut out of the script. I went bonkers. And Robin was upset when Toodles was cut out. And what we learned is he had to find the director had to find a reason for that function in the narrative and the storytelling to exist. I had a great scene with the mermaids, incredible scene. That was right out of the Barry novel that had never been done. And Stephen couldn't figure out a way why it needed to be there or justify the screen time. So, but they did is they found a way that they give the oxygen to Peter and send him on to his next adventure, which is perfect. But and when Toodles was cut out, we all went, why? Toodles is the soul of the piece. So, to Stephen's credit, and in Rufio's death, I kept saying, Stephen, you can't have tomatoes and marbles and mirrors in Neverland and nobody died, then what is if there's nothing at risk for Peter, if Peter's there to risk to save his children and nobody can die, where's the jeopardy? What's the point? And finally, I was actually working on Dracula in my little office. The stunt player for Robin, who was a wonderful stunt guy, looked a lot like Robin, came in and said, "We're going to kill Rufio." And I went, yes. And I don't know why he made the decision. I don't know why the decision was made. And I stopped lobbying a long time ago. I'd said, okay, he's Steven Spielberg. And suddenly they were going to do it. And I just went, yes. Yeah. But if you look at the film, Rufio dies, but there's no aftermath. There's no grieving. The boys are all cheering, happy, and they fly and get to ready. There's no. It doesn't land because he shot it after having already shot other scenes.
I see. Yeah, so they weren't reacting to it.
And it's still one of the most important scenes for the Rufio fans. I mean, it's a scene that affected that Rufio fans all over the world still talk about. And I'm glad it's there. It belonged there, and it should have been there in the beginning. There's another reason for my Hart Chart. God damn it,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Rufio dies.
Yeah. But it's interesting how you say you wanted to find his own way there, and I think sometimes some directors do that. And what about when you're producing them? Because you did produce Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and you didn't write it. Could you then see the other side of that? And Lucinda's obviously a producer. Could you see? You went, okay, because Mary Shelley was credited writer with Steph Lady.
And Frank Darabont.
And Frank Darabont, of course. Yeah. And obviously Kenneth Branagh would have had a hand in that, being very skilled as well. Yeah. What was that like, just to produce then and not be the writer?
It was no fun. I had a great time. I had a great time with Steph Lady. I had a great time with Darabont. But once Branagh became involved and the studio sort of imposed their will on it, even Francis was sidelined. It was not fun. Okay. And I think the results, the movie's not bad, but it's not the movie that Frank Darabont wrote, and not the film not the reason we set out. Francis and I didn't want to get typecast. They asked us to do Frankenstein. He said, I won't direct it. I don't want to get typecast like that. I'm sure with a certain amount of money, it would have been easy to convince me, and was. Yeah. But again, John Levin found Steph Lady's script, which was an interesting enough take on the book, and nobody had ever really done the book. Mm. And then Darabont came on board at the studio's behest, which I thought was great. And I've known Frank for a long time, and I knew it was going to be the last script he didn't direct. He was working on Shawshank then, and his script was wonderful. It told the creature story that we wanted to tell, and made Victor the monster. And when Breno got involved, it was just going to be about a homeless guy. This is about a homeless guy that society turns into a monster. And it just went in a different direction. There's some wonderful moments in it.
Totally. And what from that did you learn in terms of, you've produced many things moving forward. What did that teach you from a screenwriting side and from a producer side that our listeners can learn, and myself and Lucinda can?
Well, I even go back to Francis. Francis did a cut of the film that nobody saw. He offered a cut. Here's how I'll solve the problems. And Brando was not interested. Don't worry, we've got this handled. So I think the lesson is don't produce something where the partners are not all on the same page, and the studio wants one thing, the director wants one thing. We sort of came. I was lucky enough to even get a producer credit on it. The real producer is John Veach, who great gentleman. I learned so much from him about physical production and about how to manage people. This guy was a legend when he came to the project to save it, to keep it on budget and deal with the actors, deal with the director. I think that when you're outgunned, you're sidelined from having any real input. Then you got to cut your losses and let go and let it be. I don't want to do that again. That's why I don't produce that much anymore. I'm a better writer. I'm a better mentor now. I'll mentor people's projects and help produce them. Mm-hmm. And I'm a better writer now, but I don't want to just produce and not have some hand in the cookie jar where the creative is. I just don't.
Yeah. No, that is really interesting. I think because that is your only, as far as I can tell, producer credit where you just produce. You've obviously exec produced and been involved, but you've written something, then you'll come on produce as well. And is that, like I say, so that you can keep your hand in the cookie jar?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you take on something you're going to produce, and you're not going to get all the rewards for the writing or the residuals or the bonuses or all that stuff you're producing. You're the last person to get paid. Mm-hmm. It better be something that you're passionate about and are willing to put it out there the way you do when you put a script out there. I'm doing that on 2 or 3 projects now. And you better be very passionate about it. And if you're doing it for payday, take the money and let them take over. If they don't want your opinion, if they don't want your input, if they don't value your input, or they think you're an asshole, they don't want to work with you, mm-hmm. which that's also happened.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Don't do it again. Remember that the next time that scenario comes up, walk away.
Yeah. Should always learn from every single film you make, right? We're always learning and getting better. And what I wanted to talk to you, obviously Muppet Treasure Island, we could talk about Lara Croft, A Cradle of Life. Contact for me was a real movie that really touched me and had a real effect on me as just a beautiful, gorgeous, stunning piece of writing, but also I love the movie and it introduced me to Jodie Foster. Really, oh my gosh, this is Jodie Foster being serious and wonderful, and it really made me, think about screenwriting and writing. What was it? What did the idea just come to you? Because it's just, if people haven't seen Contact, it is fantastic. It's a sci-fi, stunning movie. Was this your original idea you came up with and just went with? Because you mentioned earlier you like sci-fi.
No. This is Carl Sagan. This is his novel. The only fiction novel Carl Sagan ever wrote was Contact.
Of course.
We were just finishing Hook. my agents came to me with the fact that it was in development at Warner Brothers. I was a huge Carl Sagan fan, a big sci-fi. Everybody knew I was a big sci-fi nut. And I said no. The book is unadaptable in my opinion, or shouldn't be. It would depend on what Carl Sagan had to say. Oh, well, he has nothing to do with it. He's not involved. And I went, why? And they kept chasing me. I found out there were 7 other writers on the project before me. Some of them Academy Award winners, at least nominees.
Right.
7, and there had been 2 other directors ahead of that had come and gone.
Right.
The film had been in development for 10 years.
I see.
And,
okay.
It started out as an idea that actually Carl had with Francis Coppola to do a live kind of H.G. Wells, what if they landed, kind of. And then it developed into the novel he wrote with Andrea and his wife, who's wonderful. I've still got my note from them right there. And I just kept saying no, not unless Carl, is involved.
Says it's okay.
And I found out that, then I read the scripts. The scripts were shite.
Right.
They had nothing to do with the book. One of them even had her son stowing away on the journey. I'm going, who are these? I found out that not one screenwriter had ever talked to Carl or Anne.
Wow.
And not one director had ever talked to Carl or Anne. And I went, how is it possible? Because, he's Carl Sagan. He's not a screenwriter. And I'm going, come on. So I said, here's the deal. I will do this only if Carl Sagan approves me, and that if he's a part of the development process, and you pay me all this money, and you fly my family back from Hook to New York, and we go spend, completely believing they would say, no, go screw yourself. They said yes.
Love it.
So, and to Linda Ope's credit, the producer who brought me in on the project, we had a wonderful weekend with our families in upstate New York with the Sagans. Our kids were kind of the same age, and they had a new baby, Sam. And I spent the whole weekend interviewing Carl like a journalist, using those questions that I had learned from Mr. Coppola. What do you want to say about science? How do you want people? What do you want the audience? Why did you do this? Where do you know? And taking down his answers, and I would do notes at the end of every day. We spent 3 days, wonderful long weekend before we flew to London. And out of that weekend, we found the movie inside his book. And the big one was the fact that at the center of the novel, there's that meeting where she goes to the center of the galaxy and meets what she thinks is her father.
Yep.
It's in the book, and it's beautiful. It's like it's what the audience is waiting for.
Yeah.
But there's no relationship with her father prior to that.
Oh, yeah.
So I said to Carl, you can't have this scene without knowing why it's important to her, why this man, why the aliens, And he said, you're right. So we sat down and we built that relationship. They're stargazing together. And the line, if it's not us, it must be an awful waste of space. That's not Carl Sagan. That's me. I say me. It's actually Thomas Mann in Coming of Age in the Milky Way, who in the 16th century had this long quote about sort of anti-religion, about if God went to all this trouble to create this mighty place and wonderful place, and he did it all for us, what a waste of space. So that became the theme that ran through. That wasn't in the book. Right. But Carl said, that's it. That's it. That's thematically what runs through the book. Also, the love story between her and Matthew McConaughey. I found there was no love story in the book. I created one. But Palmer Joss's character was in his 50s. And he was a man, who had seen a lot of experience and had a lot of religious experience, but it was a kind of about industry and what have you, who fell in love with this woman. And she wasn't looking for Matthew McConaughey; she was looking for her father, and that's who Palmer Joss represented, was her father. And listen, I spent 2.5 years with Carl and Anne. It was wonderful. And George Miller was supposed to direct. That's the director that I wanted to see, that version of Contact.
Okay. Yep.
Jody left the Hot Zone, which I wrote for Linda as well. She was going to do the Hot Zone, and when she left the Hot Zone, she went right to Contact. So I got lucky with her leaving one sinking ship and going and raising and saving another. They brought in Minnow Mays. Linda brought in Michael Goldenberg to rewrite me.
Okay.
Which was a good revision.
It happens a lot, right? I mean, in terms of those people who don't know Hollywood that well, or writers out there, it happens, right? You write a script for someone, you're getting paid, then you'll get rewritten. Yeah. And
then Minnow Mays came on to work with George Miller, who did not get credit, who did wonderful work. Oh. And when George left over a dispute with the studio on the budget, they brought in Zemeckis. And Zemeckis read everybody's scripts. The script that Michael Goldenberg rewrote was essentially my script with some changes, but didn't have my name on it. So Zemeckis said, "This is," and usually a director will do that. They'll pick somebody they know they'll be comfortable with and will be their person.
Oh yeah.
So and Michael did a great job, but then it was disappointing to me. I wasn't on the set. I got reports from Jody and from James Woods, who were telling me what's going on. Mm-hmm. And at the end, when Carl died, when we lost Carl, I kind of went, "That's it for me. This is too sad." You know, and we had such a great time together, and he was such a great. He's not at all what you think. He never talked down to people. All he was interested in was communication. How do you communicate? Mm-hmm. I watched him at Disney World. We were all together at Disney World, and the Disney characters would come over to the table, you know, when you're having breakfast, and he and Ann's baby Sam was 1 year old then. And baby Sam is like, "Oh, yay, Pluto," or Goofy. It was Goofy. And I'm sitting there watching Carl watch Goofy do all the pantomime and all the stuff they do, you know, and making the kids laugh. And Carl says, "Excuse me, Mr. Goofy, I'll ask you a question." Goofy, you know, goes, says, "Do they give you special training in nonverbal communication?" Goofy goes, and he goes back to his thing, you know, I'm watching Carl, just watching him. "Excuse me, Mr. Goofy, another question. If a child is afraid of you, do they teach you techniques to make the child unafraid or to allay their fears?"
Nods again. Yep.
And then now the Goofy sits down at the table, and Carl is talking to Goofy, and Goofy starts writing out answers on his big autograph pad, you know, with his big paw. You know, and now tables around us are going, "Why doesn't Goofy come to our table? Hey, Mom, why is they?" You know, and I'm sure by this time, whoever Goofy was knew they were talking to fucking Carl Sagan. You know, imagine back in the dressing room afterwards, "You wouldn't believe what," you know, and that was who Carl was. He was only interested in how people and how things could be communicated. How, from light years across the galaxy, how do you reach each other? How do you communicate?
Yeah.
I didn't get to participate on the set, which was okay.
Yeah.
I was very upset at the end when they were I wasn't even going to arbitrate. And then I read the shooting script and went, "Wait a minute, this is our weekend. This is the work that we did, you know, 5-7 years ago." And turned out in the arbitration, I got first position credit and pissed a lot of people off.
Right.
That is essentially the film that we found in the book that weekend. You know, and I think it's probably the single most life-changing experience I've had was spending that kind of intimate quality time with Carl and Ann.
It sounds incredible.
Exquisite people.
Exquisite.
Lost him way too soon.
Sadly, yes. And we could talk all day, and this is amazing. And obviously, what's great about you, Jim, is you're still writing and you're still producing and you're still helping filmmakers and screenwriters, and that is incredible. And you have, what I saw there was so many post-it notes in the book. And this is obviously you, where you put notes and what works and what doesn't. Is that how you like to work with those sort of techniques?
I always tell, they say, "What's the secret of adaptation?" I say, read the book first, and don't think you're going to read it once just for fun and then go back and do read it and do your notes while you're doing it. And the book is the wellspring. A lot of people don't go back to the novel. You see all kinds of adaptations that go off the rails. Mm-hmm. The book is the wellspring. The author has more answers than you do.
That's a great bit of advice.
You respect the author and go back to them whenever you can. That's what saved Contact. That's what saved Hot Zone. That's what saved Tucker Everlasting. Mm-hmm. All the adaptations I've done, I always go back to the book. The only one it didn't save was Sahara.
Right.
Because that movie was better than than his book. It just was flat out, and he killed it. Clive Cussler killed that movie, and it was better than his book.
Absolutely incredible. And finally, if we could, some tiny bit of advice that maybe you've not said for screenwriters out there who are maybe struggling right now or about to start. Is there anything you would say you would give them?
Yeah. When I started out, we didn't have ISA and Screencraft and the Blacklist and Inkwell, and we didn't have workshops and fellowships and studios giving fellowships and the Nichols Fellowship. We didn't have anybody encouraging us to write. There's more outlets now for writers than there ever were before. We didn't have IMDb. You couldn't go online and get your box office grosses. We didn't have Slate. I would say Blacklist that Frank Leonard started, that's how my daughter's first film got made. She posted her script on Blacklist. You're protected. You can sponsor you can get readings. And Blacklist has several hundred members who are there to read, to find material for their bosses. And it's it's protected and I would say in the Writers Guild East, we help sponsor it. We didn't have that. And also the new writers are who the business is looking for. They're tired of me. They want the young new voices. And there's now more buyers than there ever were. We used to have 3 networks. Now you got 57, 68, 100. So it's an opportunity that we didn't have. And all of this, I would say the Austin Film Festival, which I've been doing for 27 years, is still the best festival that celebrates writers. Enter those contests. You will get networked. There's a whole listing of the best film festivals and writers festivals to enter. Don't be afraid to do that. Your stuff's going to get read. If you place, your producers are looking for you. This is the whole culture of this has changed now. Sundance used to be it. That was it.
Yep.
I could never get into Sundance. They always turned me down. They didn't like my scripts. And then when I became a mentor, I kept saying, no. I want to be mentored. I don't want to mentor. I want to be mentored.
Totally.
So, I do think that and I'll say this again, if you're reluctant to write, if it's hard for you to get up the guts to write, somebody's going to come in and take your place. The other thing I would say is that the other thing that helped me, this is Frank Pearson's advice to me when I had Coppola and Spielberg doing Hook, and I wasn't handling it very well. I was kind of down on myself. He got me drunk at the Hole in the Wall gang bar at Sundance, nice. And said something to me that stuck with me. That even those 2 big directors, that nobody in our business has a job. No director, no producer, no actor, no set designer, no editor, no composer, no special effects wizard, no costume designer, no composer. Nobody has a job in this business until some writer types the end. And I went, oh, thanks, Frank. That'll help me for about an hour. And I didn't realize how important what he was that said. And I didn't realize that we're job creators. Writers are job creators. And just next time you're tempted to walk away or turn away or change the channel when those end credits are rolling, just look at all those end credits.
Yeah.
If you don't believe me, all of those end credits. Not one of those end credits would exist unless some writer had the courage to type the end. And as soon as I started thinking of myself as a job creator, that was a game changer for me. I'm not just a writer, but every time a writer sits down and has the courage to type the end, they are creating potential for hundreds and thousands of jobs. I did a little math last year on the number of TV programs that were broadcast on over here. Was 345 series that were broadcast. And crews averaged between 200 and 800 on a show. That's just the crews. That had nothing to do with distribution or any of that thing. That's 1 million jobs, Fox, and the other thing I learned, I was screening Epic for, I was doing a workshop with some Taiwan animators, and we showed them Epic. And I never realized, I'm standing up here talking, and the last credit comes up. This good on Fox for doing this. The credits said over 1 million work hours were expended in the making and authorized distribution of this motion picture. No, over 12,000 jobs were created in the authorized of this distribution. Over 1 million work hours were expended in the production and authorized distribution of this film. Then it named the 50 babies that were born during the 8 years it took us to make Epic. But I realized that Frank Pearson was right. We're job creators. And all of those, look at Star Wars, look at Mandalorian, look at any of the blockbusters, all the Guardians again. Look at all the credits at the end of those films. It started with a writer, and if that's something that new writers should understand, that's the potential that they have when they have the courage to sit down and write. And if that doesn't inspire you, then get a day job and support yourself that way while you find your Jones, while you find your writing. Don't be afraid to take a day job and support your habit.
Brilliant. That's such amazing advice, Jim. Thank you so much. And that was inspiring. It's true. We create work for people when you write a script, or it certainly can do. It's got the potential, and I love that. Can people follow you online? Are you on Twitter? Are you on the old socials?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. The Hart Chart is on Twitter, at the Hart Chart. On Facebook, on Instagram at the Hart Chart. And you can visit the website. My email address is on the website. My email address is in the toolkit. I don't shy away from any of that. We try to do master classes. We did 5 this year because of the pandemic. Probably won't do any more till next year. Okay. But go check out the toolkit. Use the 20% discount. Let me know what you like and don't like. We're in the midst of expanding the Hart Chart. We have a whole Chilean developer group right now that's taking the chart and expanding it into be able to use for a whole season for TV. Expanding the ability to follow single characters through multiple charts. These are all coming from users that have asked us, can it do this? Can you use it for this? So we're responding to those users, which always makes me happy that they're actually using it and getting it's helping their work.
I love it. Yeah, same with us. It's so important and it's so nice. You feel great, don't you? When they go, oh, it's actually really useful. Thank you. And you go, oh.
Well, I'll send you the download on the house. You can
Thank you.
Use it, and then I want you to review it.
All right, I'll 100% do that for you, sir. Yes, right. Amazing.
That's brilliant.
I don't know what you're going into production on, but kudos.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, we've got separate projects and both of us are about to go, so it's super exciting. But Jim, thank you so much for your time. Honestly, really appreciate it. You can follow us at Filmmakers Pod on Twitter. We are on Instagram now, The Filmmakers Podcast. And if you want to email us and get in touch or maybe come on the show, thefilmmakerspodcast@gmail.com. Tell us how much you love Jim. Thank him for his amazing talk today. Really appreciate that. You can follow me at Giles Alderson on Twitter as well. Lucinda, where can people find you?
You can follow me at Picture Perfect, which is at PicPerf Limited. Come and say hi.
PicPerf.
PicPerf. Do say hi. And remember, you can go make your film. You can make it happen. And like Jim says, you can create work for people. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to send the elevator back down. We will see you all next Tuesday, as always. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Lucinda.
Go type the end. Go type the end.
Go type the end.
Go type the end.
Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jim.